Hi everyone, we start with the scene between Georgiana and Samuel. The chair was already set out for her to sit down, but I think he did it just out of respect and just to make her feel like at home and get comfortable before they start this meeting.
You must answer my questions honestly.
The truth is the truth. I have no fear of it.
Georgiana, like she said, she's not afraid. She's willing to testify, defend herself, and prepare herself the best that she can. Samuel, he seems very confident, so I think he's gonna put her to a challenge during this meeting, and hopefully it goes well, and hopefully he is the right lawyer for her to represent her against Mr. Lockhart.
Miss Greenhorn. Arthur Parker, your humble servant. Welcome to Sanditon.
No need to bow to me, Mr. Parker. I'm not royalty.
Miss Greenhorn, she seemed humble. She's like, you don't have to bow in front of me. I'm not royalty. She's just a very talented singer, but she's pretty humble about the position that she is in.
I know you have performed in grander locations. I do hope this one will not disappoint.
In truth, I should have gone straight to Paris from Vienna. Coming here is something of an inconvenience. But the chance to sing for a king.
But she was straightforward at the same time. She was like, yeah, I really didn't want to go to Sanditon. I was supposed to go to Paris next, but I made this stop just for the King of England. Like, who wouldn't pass up that opportunity?
A woman of my color. It's unheard of. For both of us.
Lord Montrose, Duke of Buckinghamshire, at your service, Miss Greenhorn.
Harry to the rescue. So there's like the funny part of the scene when Harry showed up in that outfit and Arthur's like, what in the world are you doing? At the same time, it's nice that Harry showed up as support for Arthur and helping him in welcoming Miss Greenhorn to Sanditon.
Your Grace, please excuse us.
Miss Greenhorn, I know the King has an encyclopedic knowledge of the classical canon. When the recital is over, it will be my honor to present you to him.
I look forward to it.
Harry just made it worse. He is going with the lie, going with the pretend that the king is coming, but he is actually not, and Arthur's like starting to freak out.
Miss Greenhorn, my servant will escort you to your room. We have it prepared.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. I hope you enjoy the recital, Lord Duke.
She has high expectation for her own performance tonight, thinking that everything is going smoothly, but in fact, the king is not coming, so that would be a huge letdown, a huge disappointment for her. The question is Arthur gonna go along with this lie, to pretend that Harry is trying to force into the situation?
Do not fret, Mr. Parker.
It's funny though, Harry thinks that he is helping Arthur in an immense way, but he is actually doing the opposite. And Arthur like freaking out. He's like, you just made like a huge plot hole in this situation. Like, the hole is getting bigger and everything's just gonna fall apart.
Do not fret, Mr. Parker. All will be well.
But we know Arthur, he's the type of man that's very loyal, and he's not the type of guy that will easily lie to you, whether it's a white lie or a serious lie. He's an honest man, so I think most likely Arthur will eventually have to tell the truth to Miss Greenhorn.
You live alone? Is this to allow for guests?
What are you implying?
I think you know exactly what I'm implying.
This looks like a fake interrogation room. like Samuel is on the opposing side asking some serious burning question to Georgiana, question that she probably didn't think of in the first place. She started to feel a bit intimidated, challenged by the questions that Samuel are throwing at her.
I thought you were to leave Sanditon after the party.
No, I stayed with Georgiana.
That's like the cover page. She stayed in Sanditon for Georgiana, but I think there's more to that story. I love the scene between Alexander and Charlotte. The first 2 episodes of season 3, these two people, I just feel like the intensity is so deep, the passion is still there, the spark, the romance, and it's one of those storylines where the guy knew that she was the one, but he screwed it over, he lost his first chance, and now he tried to get a second chance with that same woman, but she's tied to another man, or she is not interested. He knew what he lost, and he knew that he made a mistake, and now he's trying to get her back to himself, and it's harder the second time around.
And you're betrothed?
He had to return to Willingdon, to his farm.
Oh, he's a farmer, like me.
He asked about her wealth. He interested. He wanted to know. He's okay, why are you still in Sanditon? You're supposed to be married by now. You have a guy that is in love with you, that dying to marry you, and you're keeping him in hostage back in your hometown, and you're here in Sanditon for Georgiana's sake. He's trying to make conversation with her in this scene, but the topic that they're talking about is really deep, you know. He asked about her love life with Val, and she looked at him when she answered his question, but there was that moment where she just tried to look away from him, and I think she's just trying to not look at him too long. That can cause her to remember her feelings that she had for him in season 2. So Mr. Heybourne, he liked that countryside, and he liked that escape from the city, from the hustling and the bustling of city people, that craziness of that city life. He liked to be away from that and have that mixture of that farm life, and that's where his horses are, and that big piece of land that he had where his house stands. He had a really big property, it looks like. So he's oh, Val's farm, the countryside, that's the same taste that Alexander has when it comes to the lifestyle that he wants to live.
Nothing like you. How was your stay in Bath?
And then Charlotte mentioned about, complimented. She technically complimented Alexander, she's nothing like you. And I'm you did not say that. So to me, it's she knew, she knew what she lost, she's in denial, she trying to deny that she still have feeling for Mr. Heybourne, but she still does, and she just admitted right there. So it kind of she comparing Ralph and Alexander, and by the sound of it, it sounds like she would rather have Alexander than Ralph, but she's not doing anything about it. She just be miserable, she willing to put herself in misery by marrying Ralph, instead of ending that engagement and go back to Alexander. So she putting herself into this position where she can ruin her happiness for the rest of her life. You don't want to marry a guy and get stuck to a guy that you're not truly happy, right? you don't want to deal with that for the rest of your life. Like, you should be with someone that makes you happy. Did you notice her hands fidgeting again? She trying to like stay calm, like, yeah, I'm happy with Ralph, you know, like he's the one for me. I'm gonna marry him after this situation with Georgiana is resolved. Then she changed the subject. She put the question spotlight on him and asked him how was his stay in Bath, just to like, you know, lessen the tension between these two.
That's pleasant enough. And your return to Willingdon?
Pleasant enough.
Then he put it back on her and asked her how was her travel back to home and adjusting back to the normal life in Willingdon. And she said the same thing, like, yeah, pleasant, like, you know, everything went well.
Only pleasant.
More than pleasant.
And then he kind of like interrogated her like even more, like with a even more challenging question. So to me, he just like trying to ask her like, okay, like, are you happy to be back home in Willingdon? Like, do you see yourself living there for the rest of your life? Do you see yourself getting married to Ralph and being in Willingdon for the rest of your life with him as his wife? I think he's just trying to test the waters and try to see if she's like standing firm on her decision to be with Ralph, because he thinks that she's making a huge mistake, and he thinks that she knows that she's making a mistake to be engaged to Ralph. So it's just like a matter of time if, you know, one of these two people will eventually admit their feelings to each other.
Oh.
Then the dropping the glove moment happened, and this just like escalated the intensity between these two. This is one of the reasons why I love this scene. It's just like everything about this scene is so intense, and I love it. I love it for the drama in the romance. He was a gentleman in picking up the glove, and I know I can be like really attentive to like the smallest detail, but that white glove, like the way that he handed to her and then she grabbed it, it's just like the glove like represented like a bridge, like they haven't like connect to each other, like they didn't physically touch each other, they just like touch each other with the glove in between them, you know what I mean? So kind of like a guard, like, oh, not quite yet, you know? Like he tried to get Charlotte to realize that she made a mistake in being engaged to Ralph without pushing her to cheat on Ralph, you know what I mean? So it's just like that, like, I really want you, but I can't do much more than this because you engaged to a different man. And then he looked up to her, directly to her eyes, and they had that moment, and Charlotte like, should I fall for him or should I not? Because technically I'm still engaged to Ralph, you know? But that look that Alexander gave to Charlotte, it's just that look, like, reminding her, like, hey, we had this thing, and we still feel this thing for each other, like, we can't deny it, and it's kind of like letting her know, like, the ball isn't hurt her. And at the same time, he would try every possible route of, you know, to get her attention, whether in this scene or at a party or whatnot, and try to remind her, like, what she is missing.
Why are you still unmarried?
Because I've yet to find someone who is worthy of me.
But you've had several romantic interludes with several men.
There was nothing improper.
You live alone. How would we know?
Because I am saying it.
He is definitely showing these burning question to Georgiana, and he meant well. He wanted her to be prepared for this court session against Mr. Lockhart.
You have a reputation.
For what?
Rabble-rousing. You're vocal in your condemnation of slavery.
Of course I am.
And yet it is because your father wooed your mother that you are here.
If I was Georgiana, I would definitely feel like so down in having this conversation. She might be feeling intimidated and being hated by this man, Samuel, that she barely knows, right? And he is raising his voice and kind of like in the condemning tone and accusing her and judging her. It sounds like it's not going well at the moment, and as a viewer, you're like, okay, this could go either way. She could approve him as a lawyer, or she could not hire him as a lawyer.
You are the very product of slavery, Miss Lamb. Without it, you would not exist.
Went from her love life, her past relationship with different men, to the relationship between her father and her mother, and the fact that he was a white man and her mom is a colored woman, and now he mentioned about how she is the product of that relationship between a white man and a colored woman. He's transitioning into that injustice, that slavery, the fact that there are relationships out there between a white person and a colored person. So he's like not attacking her, but he is preparing her like from every direction that Mr. Lockhart lawyer might attack her in. The type of question that they will ask her when she is on stand in court.
Did your father's
My
slave-
mother's name is Agnes.
Did she set out to seduce him?
No.
A woman of such low
Stop.
morals whose only desire was to trap
That's
a decent
enough.
man.
Dang, like the conversation got heated, got really tense, right? And you just like, are we in court yet? But we're not even in court. This is just a preparation for Georgiana on what to expect when she go inside that room and she see Mr. Lockhart, and the moment that she had to make a stand and defend herself inside that courtroom, she really need to be prepared. This is not an easy game, especially contending against Mr. Lockhart. And Samuel knows what to expect. He's a lawyer. I'm pretty sure that he had plenty of cases in the past. We don't know yet if he had this case before. This could be something new for him. But with his experience and knowledge, like he knows what to expect in this case with Georgiana versus Lockhart.
I apologize. Sincerely. But this is necessary. You must be prepared for these humiliations.
You can see Georgiana, she like back away from him when he tried to get closer to her. She's like you just talked to me like so rude. But he revealed to her why he talked to her like that. On purpose, for a good reason, to test her strength and her confidence, her endurance, if she is truly ready to face Lockhart in court, and also to prepare her with these questions that they might ask her.
Lockhart would not have brought this claim unless he had compelling evidence against you. And they will be merciless.
I think he's a great lawyer. I think he will be a great lawyer for Georgiana. The way that he interrogated her and have this moment to get to know her and to prepare her for what to come, it just showed that he cares. And he's very honest. He's like, hey, like, this is not an easy win. It would be very hard for us to win this case against Lockhart. He made a good point. Like, Lockhart must have a strong evidence to get Georgiana in trouble with the money that she stole, according to Lockhart, away from her father. Now she have to show evidence that she is the rightful heir to the inheritance from her father, and that her father was actually her real dad. And the judge, like, is not helping, but the judge is already in favor over Mr. Lockhart's side.
It will take every ounce of strength and character you have to endure it.
So Samuel knows what he is up to, the stakes that he is in if he does work for Georgiana and if he represents her in this situation. But now it's come down to Georgiana, like, does she want to pursue this court session with Lockhart? Is she willing to give all that she has and fight for her life, or will she just accept the defeat and allow Lockhart to take away her name and her reputation and the money from her father?
Leo and Augusta talk of you often. I think they miss your presence.
Do they?
Charlotte has this evolved relationship with these two girls. In the beginning, like, Augusta, like, really didn't like Charlotte. Leonora, she gave Charlotte a hard time, but they grew to love each other and support each other, and they looked up to Charlotte like an older sister that they never had. And Charlotte loves these two girls like her own sisters, and she cares for them.
Profoundly.
I think at the same time, Alexander tried to tell Charlotte that he misses her too, and I think she got that message. I think she knows, even before now, how much Leonora and Augusta miss her, how much the house, the Heybourne Park miss Charlotte a lot. Augusta and Leonora ran into Charlotte before this conversation, so Charlotte already knew, but having Alexander mentioning it again about the girls missing Charlotte, it can add pressure to Charlotte. She knows that they miss her a lot, including Mr. Heybourne himself, and she knows that, you know, they had that chance to be a happy family in the future, and hopefully it's not too late for that.
Mr. Colburn has been quite judicious in demonstrating the public distress Mr. Lockhart could cause me. I don't think I can subject myself to it.
You can see the disappointment in Charlotte's face. She's like, oh man, like, Charlotte really wants Georgiana to fight for her life. But that's her decision. That's Georgiana's decision, and everyone need to support that. You know, it's her life. It's her situation. She decides what she needs to do.
This trial will take place in 2 days' time, even if she's in absentia. If she will not defend herself, she has little hope of winning.
Samuel, he informed Charlotte of the consequence if Georgiana doesn't show up in court, which is nice of him. He's a lawyer, you know, it's a profession. You need to represent yourself really, really good as a lawyer. You need to inform your client, like, what happened if it's this way or the other way. So it's good that he let Charlotte know, so she has an idea of what to expect and what needs to be done.
Please wait until tomorrow before you leave. I'll try to persuade her to continue. Thank you.
Going forward, it sounds like Charlotte wants to give another thought to Georgiana and try to convince her to take a chance. That look that Charlotte and Alexander gave to each other, that silent goodbye, especially after that intense private conversation that they just had in the waiting room.
Don't underestimate Miss Hayward's resolve, Samuel.
he knows that Charlotte is a strong, independent woman, and she's that type of person that doesn't give up easily. And Alexander knows that, so he's letting his brother know, like, to give it a day or two and see if Georgiana will change her mind. And Samuel went back inside the house, but Alexander stayed outside and watched Charlotte and Georgiana continue to walk home. But to me, I think it's just that watching, that looking of like, until next time, you know, like, there will be another moment when he runs into Charlotte again, especially if she is staying in Sanditon until after the trial ends for Georgiana. So he knows that he will see Charlotte at least one more time before she head back to Willenden. Then the next scene is Edward. He sat down and he started to write something. And my guess is that he probably tried again at writing a poem for Augusta, and he seemed happy in writing it. I think he was flattered. I think he was intrigued by Augusta, the way that she carried herself and the way that she defended herself, like the way that she's like very headstrong against him in the last conversation outside by that tree in front of Leonora. So I think he was impressed by her personality and how she carries herself. And she's like, you know what, let me prove it to her. Let me write something romantic and beautiful that would catch her attention and to convince her to be interested in him in a romantic way. Mary and Tom, in the next scene, they're talking about the location of the hotel, and Tom is summarizing what happened in his meeting with Mr. Price and about that location that Mr. Price wanted. And Mary was firm. She's like, we cannot do that to the fishermen. Like, we cannot do that to the people of Sanditon. Like, the original, the OGs of Sanditon, like, they are the heart of this town, and we cannot kick them out of their home. We can't treat them like that. They are one of the reasons why Sanditon is Sanditon. And common sense is bad. Like, you know, you don't want to like destroy a land of homes and people are kicked out and they are forced to live somewhere else. Like, they might not have the support and money to move somewhere else. So that's a mistreatment. And Mary's like, she's like the mayor wife, you know, like she cares for the people of Sanditon, and she have that strong voice in defending for them and supporting them. And Tom agrees. But the next question is, you know, Tom, he can be persuaded easily. He can, like, you know, get into something that will trap him. Hopefully he very strong in the decision, like, we cannot have this hotel in this location. Like, we have to pick somewhere else. And he told Mary that Lady Denham wouldn't approve the location that Mr. Price picked. Hopefully that is true, because if Lady Denham agrees with Mr. Price, Tom is like by himself, and he will get the pressure, and he'll be persuaded by Lady Denham and Mr. Price to pick that location.
You'll be leaving then? Miss Lamb refuses your help?
Why? Sanditon has changed. For the better.
Alexander kicking his brother out soon, too soon. Samuel, he started to like Sanditon more than he did in the past, by the sound of it. So he is sticking around a little bit longer. It's nice to have Alexander brother in season 3. Definitely brightened the house up a little bit, you know, like more visitors, more guests to the house. It's not too quiet.
Why stay a while? See a little more of it, if you can bear my company.
Sure, I could tolerate a few more days of it.
We should have a shooting party. Like the old days. Bring this place back to life.
Yeah.
This might be my guess, I could be wrong. When they were young, maybe Alexander was like the fun one, and and Samuel was the serious one. Alexander mentioned that Samuel didn't like those shooting parties when they were younger, but now at an adult age, Alexander seems serious type, and his brother seemed to be that single, laid back, fun brother because he has like no kids to watch. Alexander, he is single, but he has like more responsibility with Leonora and Augusta in this big house in Heybourne Park. So it's interesting seeing these two brothers like side by side and learning about their different personalities and what they like and what they don't like. I think it's fun to have Samuel around in season 3.
You hated those parties.
I was younger then.
Why not? Besides, might be a good opportunity to introduce Augusta to some suitable young men.
Of your choosing.
Do you see that arrow? Augusta is receiving a letter, and the way that she went out of the house to receive the letter, like Samuel picked up on the vibe. He's like, okay, there's something going on with my niece. And Alexander had no idea just yet about Augusta and Edward.
Of your choosing. Did she not be able to meet and choose a suitable young man of her own?
You're hardly the person to lecture me on beauty.
I will concede you that. For now.
And Samuel, he kind of like making a remark on Alexander's parenting style and the fact that Alexander like doesn't give much freedom to Augusta, especially meeting young men her age and having the freedom to pick the man that she wants to be with for the rest of her life.
The young lady must be very important to you for you to swallow your pride and ask me for help after all these years.
Miss Hayward is a former employee, nothing more.
I was referring to Miss Lamb.
Uncle?
Yes, Augusta.
When Samuel said that Alexander finally swallowed his pride and reached out to Samuel after 10 years, to me, it looks like that Alexander didn't put much effort in staying in touch with his brother or to see his brother or invite his brother over to Sanditon. Alexander, if you get to know him, like especially in the beginning, he might be that man that lived on this one-man island. He can be very private, very quiet. He had this big property that he lives on away from the craziness, the busyness of Sanditon. So he seemed to be that lonely guy on that one-man island. But if you get to know him, he's a nice guy, and it took a while for him to move on from his past, and he's in a better place now, where he is now in his life, except for his love life. And being in a good place in his life, he opened his heart, his door to his brother Samuel. That took him a lot of courage and strength to go to London and find his brother. Like, that can be awkward, you know? Like, after 10 years of not communicating to your family, like, that can be awkward. But he overstepped that. He didn't let that get to him, and he's willing to do this for Georgiana and Charlotte, to help Charlotte find Georgiana in this case with Mr. Lockhart.
I have something of a headache. May I ask your permission to stay at home rather than attending the recital?
Of course.
If Augusta didn't interrupt them, I think the brothers would have had a discussion about Charlotte, and I think that would be the beginning of Samuel being Alexander's wingman. He doesn't know about what happened exactly between his brother Alexander and Charlotte. All Alexander told him just now is that Charlotte was just an employee, but the way that he said it, Samuel picked up on that vibe, like, okay, there's more to the story. You got to tell me, brother. Also, at the same time, Alexander is like super relieved that his niece interrupted the conversation, because I think he wasn't ready to tell his brother about what really happened between him and Charlotte in the past. And Augusta, this is her fake reason to not go to this recital. She's very sneaky, very wise in the choice of words that she say to her uncle.
So, where is this great plan of yours? You said all would be well, yet Miss Greenhorn is even now preparing to meet His Majesty.
Calm yourself.
Arthur is freaking out. It's nice of Harry trying to help, but it's not helping, you know what I mean? But it's nice that he is still there, showing up to Arthur to support him. Like, he didn't, like, dish Arthur. Like, he tried to help when Miss Greenhorn arrived, and he knew that he failed by doing what he did. And he could have just, like, left Arthur alone and let him deal with it. Like, the mess that Harry made when he welcomed Miss Greenhorn into town. But he didn't. He came to the Parker house in this scene, and he still showed up. Like, he's still supporting Arthur and trying to help him in every way that he can.
We shall simply tell her he's due to arrive late, and she'll meet him after the performance. By then, she'll have had such clamorous applause, she'll barely mind.
No.
That is actually a good, decent idea by Harry. I know it's bad, but it's actually not that bad. But then again, it's a lie. Like, it's just delaying the lie. Delaying the reveal that it had been a lie since the beginning. Arthur, his personality, like, he wants everyone to be happy, and if something goes wrong, like, he easily stresses about it. And Harry, he had that personality where he can be really calm in the midst of the storm. So these two men, like, they, like, you know, balance each other in this situation.
No, I cannot bring myself to lie. Least of all to an artiste.
Arthur, he's an honest man, he's a good man, so he's gonna tell Miss Greenhorn the truth, and that takes a lot of gut to do that, so good for him, especially in a professional setting, you know, like, you don't want to look bad yourself, but if you made a mistake, or if you did something wrong, and you prevent it from happening again, or making it right, that shows even greater good in you, you know what I mean? If you keep lying, then, you know, it's a bad reputation on yourself.
Ah, Mr. Parker. Is everything ready?
As it will ever be, Miss Greenhorn. And if I may say, there are no words to describe your beauty.
A nice introduction, Arthur complimenting on her beauty. He's still excited that she's in town, and he knows that she's a big hit and that everyone will still enjoy her performance without the king.
We are honored.
Honored.
I have had a great deal of assistance. Thank you for the flowers, Mr. Parker. They smell divine.
Harry showed up in the room too as a sign of support, even though Arthur is, like, annoyed by him, like, to the max. But everything is going smoothly, and Miss Greenhorn, she appreciates the service and the love and support ever since she arrived in town.
You've made me most welcome.
There is something I must tell you, Miss Greenhorn, before you sing for us.
The men did have, like, the last opportunity to not tell Miss Greenhorn. Harry was, like, shaking his head, and Arthur just decided to go for it.
I'm afraid the king is indisposed and will not be attending the recital after all.
I see.
And he said it, like, in the most calm manner. And once again, like, that takes a lot of courage and gut to tell the truth, the hard truth. And I think it's better to tell her now instead of after the performance.
He sends his abject apologies. He is distraught, but urgent royal duties have taken precedence.
Well, it's very charming of you to say that, Mr. Parker, but I doubt it.
if you were Miss Greenhorn, like pretend like you are her in today's society. The president was expected to show up at your recital, at your concert, and he or she didn't show up, right? And you feel down because the president is like the highest position to be in the country. That's an important political figure, an important person, celebrity. So I mean, it's a tough letdown for her, and she traveled all the way from Sanditon just because of the king, and he disappointed her by not showing up.
I have one question, though, and ask you to do me the courtesy of the truth. Was he ever coming?
So now she started to think like, okay, like, you know, was this like a setup? Like, was he really coming? Is he really busy that he cannot come? Like, he canceled at the last minute? Is it because I'm a woman, a colored woman? Those negative thoughts that can rise up in her mind, and that's why she started to question the author, like, was he really coming?
Yes. But
It was no ruse to dupe you, Miss Greenhorn. Mr. Parker cannot lie. It's not in his nature.
Very nice of Harry to stand up for Arthur and to reveal to her that it was his idea, that he wanted to lie to Miss Greenhorn, not Arthur.
The king let him down, and it was my idea to keep it from you. I am less of a stranger to an untruth than Mr. Parker could ever be.
That I believe.
And also, Arthur knew what happened with Lady Susan. Like, there's a whole other side of the story of the king not coming into Sanditon, but she doesn't need to know about Lady Susan. But Arthur does know about it, and Harry does too. But to be straightforward to the point, Harry stood up for Arthur and be like, hey, we still want you here, even though the king is not coming. We adore you. We want you to perform here.
I'll pay you, of course, even though you will no longer perform.
If I refuse to sing, you'll lose a great deal of money. Then it would be churlish of me not to perform.
With all the fame and money she's getting, traveling to these European countries, she's still humbled by the position that she's in. She's like, I'm not gonna take advantage of your money. Like, heck no. Like, I'm still gonna perform for you guys and make people happy.
I'm only sorry for your king that he won't get to hear me. Now, if you'll permit me, gentlemen, I must prepare.
If she didn't perform, it would be much, much worse. The people were looking forward to this event, and if Miss Greenhorn doesn't perform, it would be much more noticeable that something major went wrong. So she's willing to take the hit and still perform and make people happy. This is where we're gonna end here, and we will pick up the remaining 10 minutes of the episode for that review in the next video. But to close this off, Miss Greenhorn will perform tonight at the recital. Arthur is happy, that happy Arthur that we always know. Harry is happy too. Arthur is very relieved, very less stressful now, less stressed about this situation. It's a better outcome than he expected to be when he told Miss Greenhorn the truth. So it's good for him. He told her the truth and she understood. In return, she's like, you know what? You guys did a lot for me. And she appreciates the service and the warm welcome in Sanditon. So in return, she will perform for the people of Sanditon, and that will be a great night, a great memory for them. So that's a good thing. And we'll see how the recital goes in the next video. And there's like another moment between Alexander and Charlotte within the last 10 minutes of this episode that I'm excited to talk about. So see you in the next one. Bye.